So you want to be a leader, but here's the uncomfortable reality. It is easier to get the leadership title than it is to maintain the respect of those you are charged to lead. So if you want to know more about what it takes to be a good leader, then stick around. Welcome to Crossroads and Catalyst, the podcast with Shanita B. I am your host. This is where we discuss the thoughtful, wise, and strategic perspective at a crossroads can be the catalyst for change. Today, we are going to jump into specifically some of the more crucial characteristics and traits that are required for a leader to be successful. Because all of this really has a lot to do with the engagement that one has with their team. And you cannot be a successful leader without awareness, accountability, and resolve. You have to have these. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this is because I'm seeing it not just all around me. Whether you're the leader of a large or small organization, you have to have the respect of the people who work with you, who you're charged with leading. Because if they don't take you seriously, if they don't have confidence in you, you're likely not going to get the results and the outcomes that you're seeking. If this resonates with you, share it with a friend and be sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform it is where you're listening. Since I did talk about this in episode 10, I'm going to leave a link for it in the show notes, and I'm also going to leave a link to my email newsletter. So sign up for those. Okay, so let's get some clarity around what these things are, um, because it's good to get some definitions. Awareness. When you have awareness, this is basically just a knowledge or an understanding of something that is happening or exists. And more specifically, when we talk about it in the work context, we're understanding what is going on around us. What are people what are they expressing? What are we seeing? How are we engaging and interacting with them? How does our mood, how does our words and behavior impact other people? And what are their responses? How are we all meshing together? Awareness encompasses all of these things. And of course, with the limited time that we have in this particular episode, we're not going to be able to flesh it out completely. But I think most of you get the point as to what it is that I mean by that. And it goes beyond just being able to recognize that someone is feeling bad. Are you able to respond to people in a moment? Are you able to recognize that maybe something that you've said is completely tone deaf with what is actually taking place within the context of that conversation or within the greater context of what might have been taking place within the organization? I'm sure some of you have seen where maybe messages have gone out from leadership indicating well, maybe the organization is not in a great financial standing, but then you hear maybe a couple of days later that leadership received bonuses. Well, completely tone deaf, completely unaware of how this might look because maybe not only did they get the bonuses, maybe they're spending like crazy and it's just not making sense. People do not have an appreciation for that. Or I'll bring it close to home. I once went out with a leader. It was a thank you lunch that was provided to me and some colleagues. And okay, we went out and enjoyed this lunch. And we were going to have to work really hard in the coming days because we had some heavy deadlines that were coming. And the boss who invited us to this lunch just completely glossed over the fact that we were going to have to do a lot of extra work over the next several weeks. And that was going to require working some holidays. While he went on to explain what he was going to be doing on his holiday, which was not working, taking time and spending it with his family. And so in those moments, it showed a lack of awareness. Not that he couldn't share what he was going to be going through, but if the point was to show thanks and to offer thanks and show that you understand what your team is going through, maybe that's not the most appropriate time to share how you're going to spend your holiday vacation when your team is going to be left behind to do the work to make sure that you get what it is that you think you need. So that's just an example. What about accountability? Accountability is simply having a requirement or an expectation that whoever is in charge can justify the actions that have been taken in a particular situation. What I want to say is accountability often has a negative connotation. I think that that is misrepresented we should not always think of accountability as something that is negative. Yes, some not so good things happen which require people to answer for a certain thing, but accountability can be a good thing. And why wouldn't we want to hold one another accountable? And one of the reasons why I think that accountability is so important, because when you have someone who is in the lead, whether they're a middle manager, an executive, or even at the very top of the org chart, it is so important that they understand what is taking place within their department or within the organization as a whole. And the closer you get to the top of the org chart, the less you're going to be involved in the daily operations. But it's still up to you to understand something about what is taking place within your organization, because ultimately the buck stops with you. And it's not going to be enough to say that you didn't know. You look at many cases that have been litigated over the years, and you ask, or not you ask, but you hear that questions are being asked. Well, why didn't this person know, or should they have known? Was it foreseeable that they would know some of the things that were taking place within their organization? And I have worked with many people, and I've actually heard leaders say that they don't even have time to meet with their people. Well, if you do not have time to meet with your people, how can you hold them accountable to ensure that they are carrying out the operations according to expectations? And how can they hold you accountable to ensure that you are aware of what's going on so that you can make sound and good decisions for an organization? Well, the reality of that is you can't, because there's no way that you can do that. So going back to my point, when I said that accountability is not a negative thing, it's not a bad thing, we should see this as a good thing, because again, it gives us the opportunity to engage our team to try to understand, where are they? What are they thinking? How are they feeling? How does all of this apply to the work that's being done? Are we getting the results that we're expecting? And I'll say another thing about this, because accountability is a major thing. And because maybe some people have been in their roles for so long, or maybe they've been with an organization for so long, they assume that things are continuing on business as usual. We cannot risk that things are continuing on business as usual. We have a responsibility to find out what is going on within our organization. If something has changed, why did it change? If you weren't aware of that change, you that's the one way that you can find out that something different is taking place, because I've seen this happen over and over, where a person has grown up through the ranks of an organization and they think that, okay, well, this is how it was happening when I was doing it. Well, maybe that was 10 years ago, and a lot has changed in 10 years. And do you really want to be in a situation where you find out something major has changed without you even knowing, and maybe you're communicating information that is completely untrue? This is why you have accountability. This is why you make it a point to show people that you understand their plight, you understand what they need, and that they can in turn expect that you will be able to provide information and support to them as well. Accountability simply builds credibility faster than perfection, because things are not going to be perfect. But what you can show people is that you're there to support them. And again, that they should be there to support you as a leader. Resolve. I want to talk about resolve as well, because when you talk about resolve, it's not just simply coming up with solutions, it's being determined to carry things out to get to the outcome that you desire. And you don't want to simply be in a situation where you're reacting only. You want to be proactive, but you first have to have some awareness and some accountability, like I just mentioned, so that you can hone in on certain things that need to be addressed. And this is why I think it's important, because if you're a true leader, then you're learning to anticipate things that are happening. You're trying to reframe them and put them in the appropriate context so that you can address them. And then you're trying to find solutions that maybe other people can't see. But if you have the vision to see a thing, and you can detail out what's going on, and you can develop a plan, and then you can put that into action, I think people will really take you a lot more seriously than if you just kind of wash your hands of it and just wait for everybody else to make the decision and follow them. The point of you being the leader is for you to be the one to take charge. This does not mean that you shut down the conversation, does not mean that you don't try to get buy-in from everyone, but what it does mean is that you are decisive and you're determined to get a thing done. So then what kind of choices do we have as it relates to uh, what we can do to sharpen and cultivate these skills? Well, when it comes to awareness, it might be uncomfortable for you. You're going to have to ask for some feedback because what I've recognized is for leaders who have been in leadership positions for quite some time, people are not pouring, they're not pouring out feedback to leaders. They have to seek it out, and you have to be interested enough to want to know what people think. So if you have a leader, you're a leader, but you have a leader, ask that person. If you have a mentor, ask them. If you have a team, ask them. Yes, again, this might be uncomfortable, but it is so pertinent because I think all of us can relate to having said things in in meetings or in some type of discussion and realize that, ooh, maybe that didn't go over so well, or maybe I shouldn't have said it like that, or maybe I didn't realize that someone was going through something and that just wasn't the most appropriate time to say something. We have to sharpen this skill because if because people will they will see that you are trying if they recognize that you have a level of awareness that considers them. Because partly that's what awareness is about. It's considering other people and their situation and circumstances. And yes, some situations are going to be more dire or more urgent. But then, when it comes to the everyday machinations of engaging with people, you want to show them that you have enough awareness to hold back when it's necessary or to move forward when it's necessary. So definitely keep that in mind. And, ask yourself some questions. Do I understand what my team does? Do I understand what they like and dislike? And how do we interact with one another? Again, it can be something really simple, but make an effort to build your awareness skills. And I'll say this for people who are not in leadership positions, but you want to be, if you find that people are easily upset, or maybe not easily upset, that they get offended because of things that you have said or things that you have done, that might be a clue to you that you want to dig a little deeper to understand better what it is that you say that triggers people. Some people, yes, can be overly sensitive, but everybody is not overly sensitive. This is going to require you to do some self-reflection because I know even with parents and how they engage with their adult children, they have children who say things to them. They just say whatever it is that they want to say without regard for the feelings or the thoughts of the person to whom they have directed those comments. So if you are one of those people and maybe you have siblings or parent who has said something to you, consider it a little more carefully. And if you have a colleague who genuinely uh, cares about your career and how you interact with other people, maybe they've shared some things with you too. My point is, it behooves you to slow down long enough to try to understand some of the prior interactions that you've had with people that might not have gone so well. And maybe really the reason why it didn't go so well is because of you. So, sit with that for a minute. And so, what about resolve? Here's excuse me, not resolve, accountability. When it comes to accountability, you want to set some clear expectations for yourself and for your team. And what does this look like? It is not going to be enough to set it and forget it. If no one is ever looking at it to validate if it's working properly, if it's going as well as it should, well then who's in charge? So don't just set a thing and say, okay, well, this is how we've always done it, or we don't need to talk about it, or because no one is complaining or no one is telling me anything, Well, there's not anything that's wrong. Well, I can almost pretty much with a 100% certainty let you know that that is not the truth. I have heard so many times from different people over the years when I have gone into organizations that, I really like such and such, but they just they don't they don't really bring anything. They don't allow any change, or they don't even talk to me. If you are a leader, again, because accountability is not a bad thing, you have to change your approach to it. Set one-on-one meetings with your team. This does not have to be something that you do every week or even every other week. You could just do it once a month. But your people need to see you. They need to talk to you. They need to hear from you because you are the one who is responsible to lead them. If they are left to their own devices, well, why does the organization need you? Are you just a figurehead? Are you serving any real purpose? So make the effort to engage with your team and to ask them questions and give them the opportunity to ask questions and come prepared. Come prepared to have a serious discussion. Now, it doesn't all have to be, uh, urgent or dire or hard or difficult or anything like that. But you want to come prepared to have conversations so that you can make sure that you understand what is going on. I once heard a leader say that he didn't have time to meet with his team and that he wished that he could, but he just didn't. To which I responded, well, then what do you have time for? If you never have time to meet with your people, how do you know how they're doing? How do you know if the work that they're doing is effective? So just keep that in mind. And then finally, with resolve, when it comes to resolve, I think, is marked by determination because you are determined to find a solution to whatever it is. And when you're in charge, when you're a leader, you're oftentimes going to be presented with things that are very uncomfortable. They're very difficult. They're not easy to get through. And it's going to be up to you. And it might not be solely up to you. Maybe you're working with a team of other leaders to help you get through it. But sometimes you can get a little gridlocked because nobody really wants to make a decision. And everybody is just kind of they're just kind of weirded out by whatever it is that's going on. Well, you're going to have some determination because, again, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive. And for a leader to gain respect from those people that are working under their leadership, you want to show them that you are someone who can see a challenge, you can see a problem, and you can figure out how to navigate through that situation. It doesn't just have to be you solo, it could definitely be you engaging the team and asking for some critical information that would assist with making that decision. But ultimately, you are the one who's going to make that decision. So use that to your advantage and make sure that you're addressing challenges as they come up. Don't wait 6 months down the road and then try to bring something up that happened because people they're not gonna have any respect for you if you do that. You want to address things almost as quickly as they come up. And yes, sometimes you're going to have to do some research, some investigations, ask some questions. People understand that. But if you push things off and you avoid conflict, people don't like that. And they especially don't like it in their leaders. It's one thing to work with a colleague who does that. It's another thing to work with a person or to work under the leadership of someone who is charged with doing that very thing and they refuse to do it. Leadership is not about having all the answers. But if you, as a leader, can demonstrate that you have awareness, that you are accountable, that you have resolve, then people are more likely to want to trust you and want to follow you, and they will show you respect because you have demonstrated to them that you are a considerate person. These are not easy traits to hone. Some people, maybe it comes a little more naturally. A lot of people, it does not. And this is why I wanted to talk about these things because, again, I've worked in so many different scenarios and circumstances where I've seen it play out, where people have just become a bit apathetic because they don't believe that their leadership is doing their work and taking their work seriously. And when they don't provide them feedback, when they are not open to feedback, when they're not open to ideas that could be innovative and can be game changers, they just shut down. They just become complacent and they don't make any genuine moves toward trying to make improvements because they think that it's pointless. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it. So I would challenge you today to take these tips and incorporate even just one of them, but make sure that you follow up with the second and with the third, because that's what's going to make a difference to you ultimately. So we are at the end of our episode, and so I appreciate that you spent some time with me so that we could discuss this. I'd like for you to share with me what you think about this particular topic, and send an email to me at connect@crossroadsandcatalyst.com. And I will also leave a link in the show notes to episode 10 and the email list. So be thoughtful, be wise, and be strategic. And remember, crossroads reveal who you are, catalysts shape who you become. Every decision matters. So make it count. I'll talk to you next week.